Welcome and thank you for joining us for the second half hour, The Factor Uncensored. It's been nearly a week since 17-year-old Austin Metcalf was killed after being stabbed at a track meet, and now there are racial tensions surrounding his death. Some on social media are comparing his death to George Floyd's. Carmelo Anthony, the suspect there, is now charged with first-degree murder and being held on a $1 million bond. According to witnesses and the police report, Metcalf got into an argument with the suspect over a seating dispute in the bleachers. There's some speculation over Metcalf's death. Metcalf has been accused of being a bully. Only accused. His death has also led to the term "White Lives Matter" to trend on X. One user even wearing a shirt with the phrase on it, "In support of Austin Metcalf." Anthony's attorney has released a statement saying, quote, "Carmelo and the entire Anthony family are sincerely saddened that a life was lost and offer their condolences to the family of Austin Metcalf. During this difficult time, we urge the public to refrain from rushing to judgment before all the facts and evidence are presented." Joining us on The Factor Uncensored to talk about it, we have with us Constable Smokey Phillips from Precinct 7 and therapist Dr. Bernadette Smith. So, Dr. Smith, we knew when I saw this happen, I knew it was inevitable that we would go down this road of racial divide. Why?
I mean, there's so much racial tension currently, but the other part of it is we never healed from all the racial tension from the history of our country. And so when we have all this racial tension and we have all these things that have never been addressed, then of course it's common for these things to become unearthed, and then our feelings arise, and then our emotions then take place in that space. So it's not surprising.
Now, what we have here are two teams obviously involved in some type of altercation that they haven't released all the details to, but one kills another. But how does the public take sides like that? Automatically with the black kid, there are black people saying, look, support him, he was the victim. And on the white side, there are white people who are saying, look, he is the victim here, he's the one who's dead. How does that happen organically like that with the public?
So I think it's a couple of things, right? So one, again, we already know that there's racial tensions are high, and it doesn't help that we don't have you know, a leader that is helping to create unity among our country. The other part that becomes important is there's something called like critical incident training that typically occurs after something like this. And what critical incident training then does, or management then does, is they go in and they go in with facts and truth to help to reduce and minimize falsehoods or misinformation. And so again, it sounds like, because there's still a lot of facts, as the statement of Carmelo's attorney stated, hey, like, let's wait until we get all the facts before we say what's happening. There's a lot of misinformation still. And so being able to have everything on the table, I think, will then be easier so that we then know what to do moving forward.
All right, Constable Phillips, let's bring you into this conversation. Right now on one side for Anthony, the public has raised $240,000, $250,000. On Metcalf's side, they've raised $290,000, close to $300,000. And you can see there's a divide. How did we get here from your perspective as law enforcement? And would you agree with Dr. Smith? It's good to come quick into a case like this and say, here are the facts. As law enforcement, let's not rush to judgment, because we should have the foresight to see that this could be divisive in a community.
Well, it further shows the evilness that's traveling throughout the country. If you look at January 6th, where you see people at the insurrection where white men were killing policemen, injuring cops, and then later on that Monday, all of them freed. So that gives a special type of I have a right to do something. And probably in this situation, you look at the city, not saying the city is racially motivated, but you have 240,000 people in that one city. 50.4% are white, 9% are black. So you may have some individual there with his home, I read the article where the father said something about his family. What was his family upbringing? What was his family, why did his parents let him bring a knife to school? So to me, that's a dog whistle to say, let's look into his family life. Mm-hmm. As we know, there's 18 million young black men without fathers. Well, there may be 18 million white kids with dads. But what's that teaching them, though? Or these 18 million black kids are learning from violence through rap music, through what they see on television, or do these 18 million white kids who have families are seeing what our president espouses to this nation? Mm-hmm. When you say, well, a peaceful protest, a man takes a car, runs over everybody, and he said, oh, they're all good people. So it depends on what the teaching is at home, but not necessarily. It just depends on what these kids are learning out here.
Should law enforcement have anticipated the divide that we're seeing now and come out like Dr. Smith said and say, here are the facts, don't rush to judgment on this. Give us some time to investigate and we will bring you the facts and we'll allow it also to play out in the court?
Well, they should have been in front and center on it. When it happened, get the information out early, as Dr. Smith explained. For it won't be people saying this, or this happened, or he called him the N-word, or he shoved him out the tent. Get the information out early, that way the public can understand what happened that day in that tent.
All right, we'll continue this conversation in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We're continuing our conversation about the tragic killing in Frisco, north of Houston, near Dallas, where the teenager was stabbed by another teenager. One is being held on $1 million bond, the other dead. So when we take a look at this, Dr. Smith, I mean, when one of the issues you said, kids are under tremendous pressure now. I mean, you have social media, you have television, you have, different forms of media out there. Are they able to make good decisions or critical decisions, especially in a situation like this? Because one of the things we heard and read, we actually read, that the suspect, Carmelo Anthony, told the officer as he was walking him to the car, taking him into custody, I did it, but can we see this as self-defense?
Yeah.
Is this self-defense?
Yeah. All right, so there's so many layers to that, right? So to answer yes and no, right? Can kids make good decisions? Yeah, kids make good decisions all the time and walk away from things all the time, but the reality of it is their frontal lobe isn't fully formed. Their executive functioning is still underdeveloped. That's why parents, like our role is to essentially be their frontal lobe proxy until they're 25, 26, right? And so when you're in an environment like that, because it's already a competitive environment, they're playing sports, and then there is some type of tension, then it can become more difficult to kind of calm yourself in that moment. I've shared with you before, like the things that I'm trying to teach my kids, and it's a lot of work to teach them how to calm themselves and learn calming techniques. So then if they already don't have that foundation and you're in an environment like that, regardless of what spurred it, it's going to be much harder because then there are other people around, other young boys around. They may or may not, their peers may not have been helping to diffuse the situation, which can then further complicate everything. So
the key is getting into that room and figuring out exactly what happened, and if people egged one on or said,
And again, we don't know, but what we do know is it got to the point to where another young man has lost his life, and the other one is going to risk losing his life to the system that isn't going to be kind to him.
So, Constable Phillips, you've had a snapshot of that community. What would be your concern as a member of the law enforcement community when you look at what's going on in that community?
That the violence doesn't further continue. That people don't take arms, that, hey, this is a black kid that killed a white kid. And if you look all around the country, people get involved in that mess because they come from other states to be agitators. So we got to look out for the agitators. And law enforcement, the best thing to do is, I've read something that they have interviewed all the witnesses. get all the witness interview, get the snapshot of what really happened that day. Did he call him an N-word? Or did he feel like he should push him out the tent?
Now, you've said that twice. Have you heard that? What?
I've read that, I don't know if it's true or not, that he used the N-word when he was pushing him out the tent. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just based on what I've read about it. So as law enforcement, we should get that completed as quick as possible and have maybe a news conference with the family saying, hey, we want peace. We don't want all these agitators down here trying to start something in a peaceful community like Frisco.
And I think the other part of it is the schools playing a role, the community at large. Right. And so I recognize you're coming from it from, a law enforcement space, but I also think it's important to look at, okay, as a community as a whole, how do we want to heal so that it does not create additional issues, so that it doesn't create tensions in other spaces. Because creating those opportunities to have those conversations within the school, because those kids are hurting in the schools, they're confused in the schools, right? Having those conversations with but then also, does that look like town hall meetings in the community where their elected officials or the people in the community with whom they trust are speaking in terms of how are we healing, how are we coming together, so that we can say, we don't want this to happen. How do we create a community and a culture of love and support to help minimize something like this happening in the future?
There's a lot of work to be done in that community. A lot of work. Around the country,
around that part.
We want to thank you guys for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored.